Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Today's webinar is on the Windows Conundrum having to do with weatherization. My name is Ann Janda. I work for Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and I work with energy committees and energy coordinators in municipalities in Chittenden County. And I have heard that one of the biggest questions that comes up when we talk about weatherization with residents is windows. So we put together a webinar for you today to go over this issue. And let me introduce our panelists. Today we have Brad Long from Efficiency Vermont, Michelle McCutcheon-Shower, hopefully I said that right, from Efficiency Vermont. Jim Bradley, who is an Efficiency Excellence Network contractor. And we're lucky to have Jessica Williams with us today from Window Dressers to assist. So Brad, last thing, please put your questions into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be addressing them at the end of the presentation. So Brad, please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Ann. I appreciate that, and welcome everybody. Jim and Jessica, good to see you. Michelle, my colleague, good to see you as well. I'm going to share my screen and just let everybody know this is going to get kind of technical. I'm working through two different screens and phone, so maybe a little weird on my end, but we can do this. One moment here. Okay, I can't see anybody, so I'm going to be dependent on maybe a chat or something to notify me if there's any problems. But can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Great, that's awesome. Welcome to everybody, and thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in getting started with energy efficiency in your home. Thanks again to our host, the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. And our guests here today. We have Jim Bradley. He's an Efficiency Excellence Network contractor, one of our EEN contractors who has worked in the field of weatherization and residential construction and renovation for over 15 years. So we're going to have Jim speak with us a little bit about kind of what the contractor sees, the contractor's view of this conundrum. And we also have Jessica Williams from Window Dressers, who will be joining us later in the presentation to talk about window inserts, that technology, and what Window Dressers offers. Looks like everybody can see and hear me, which is great. You know, I like to ask essentially how many of us have thought about home weatherization, and how many of us have begun that process. Being that I can't see anybody here today, so it's kind of maybe a redundant way to start a program like this, but it's something for us to think about. I think a lot of folks think about home weatherization and they think about it as a massive project, and certainly it can be. But weatherization can also be broken down into multiple phases and multiple little projects, and that is a really popular way to tackle what can be a complex subject and topic. So, without further ado, let's see if I can get this to work. Here we go. So this is our quick agenda here. Essentially, we're going to talk a little bit about Weatherization 101, and pretty high level, but it does relate to Windows. So I wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about that. And then we're going to dive into Windows. We're going to learn a little bit about what to look for when assessing a window for repair or replacement. Things that you can do and what to look for to either supplement your window weatherization strategy or when replacing a window with a new unit entirely. We will then take a couple of minutes to showcase some of the amazing partners that you can rely on to navigate your project, from local utilities to lending institutions, contractors in the EEN network, and down to your local hardware store and some of our state weatherization agencies. We're also going to spend a little bit of time this afternoon with our guest EEN weatherization contractor to hear what he has to say about what he sees in the field. And like I say, we'll have a little session here with Jessica Williams from Window Dressers. So I do like to start with who we are as Efficiency Vermont. in just a couple minutes, I'm going to share some details about some of the other key partners that can help with your energy projects. But for now, Efficiency Vermont is the statewide energy efficiency utility. We serve every county, every town and city except for Burlington, and we serve all ratepayers in the state. That means that we offer rebates and incentives to help bring down the cost of efficient products. We offer expertise to understand the best ways to save money and energy. And we have educational resources for you to learn more about your energy use and energy saving solutions. This presentation falls into that later category. Our goal here is to provide a resource about some ways that you can save money and energy in your home. We offer the same incentives to those and services to businesses, municipalities, and the state to support our energy efficiency projects. Also work with the supply chain, everyone from contractors to retailers to manufacturers, to help make sure everyone has access to affordable, efficient products. Finally, we partner with other energy service providers like your distribution utility to make sure that we're all working together to meet our joint energy goals. Finally, we partner with other energy service providers like your distribution utility to make sure that we're working together to meet joint energy goals. At the end of this presentation, we'll turn things over and have some time for question and answer and some resources I'll provide for you. So let me go back over here to this screen. Sorry, a little technical here. Okay, so what is weatherization? Weatherization is like wearing a sweater and a windbreaker during a chilly season, during January or even February. A day like today would be a great day to consider wearing a sweater, particularly if you're going to go outside. So insulation, some people think about that part first, insulation. But have you ever worn a sweater outside on a day like today? It can be warm, but you may feel the wind blow through it. Warm air is going to escape through the little holes in your fabric there. And that's where the concept of air sealing comes in. Think of air sealing as a windbreaker that you would put on top of a sweater. And that prevents that cold air from getting out, the cold air from getting in and that warm air from getting out and away from your body. Because we know air movement reduces the effectiveness of insulation, just like feeling a breeze through the sweater, it becomes important for us to consider weatherization from a comprehensive approach, which is that combination of air sealing and insulation. So in other words, that sweater should always be in contact with the windbreaker. So you want to prioritize insulation in all of the places with the most common leaks. That will help you feel more comfortable in your home, save money on your fuel bills, save energy, and reduce carbon pollution. Sorry here, just moving this. Oh, I've lost my mouse now. Sorry. Where did that go? There we go. Okay. How heat moves through a home, air leaks, essentially. So air is going to, cool air is always going to come into the bottom of a home and move its way through the top of a home here. This is what it's going to look like. The principle that warm air is rising when there are leaks in your home, that hot air is going to escape through the roof and the attic and the upper stories as cold air and drafts come in through leaks in the basement and the lower stories. That is called the stack effect. While air leaks can happen in the conditioned space of your home, that's kind of the living spaces, it's normally the least cost-effective area of the home to insulate. Sorry, go back one there. So where to weatherize? We call this the ABCs of weatherization: the attic, the basement, and the conditioned spaces. So essentially, we generally start in the attic because that's where most warm air escapes. And I say generally because I want to note here that there are always safety considerations when we talk about weatherization. And if you've got a wet basement, as an example, you're going to want to address that wet basement first, because if you were to weatherize the attic first and the wet basement was continuing to evaporate into the upper areas of the home, that may create some damage in the home, and it may create some health and safety issues in the home. So while we always talk about reducing the amount of heat escaping through the attic, it is important to consider what's down below there. But when you're looking to reduce heat escaping from the attic, we're talking about blocking some of the larger openings, you know, the plumbing and chimney chaseways, any drop ceilings, any open plates or knee wall floor bypasses. We're talking about sealing off some medium-sized gaps. That might be your recessed light fixtures, an attic hatch where you have the pull-down stairs and there, holes where wiring and plumbing is passing into the attic, and marriage walls in manufactured housing. You want to air seal any small gaps and cracks. You want to seal drywall ceilings to all the top plates, the interior walls and the exterior walls. And you want to prepare the attic for additional insulation, and that may be through eave vent baffles, extended attic hatch surround, and preventing insulation from contacting your chimney. So there are considerations. I would never want to send anybody up into an attic and tell them to start sealing everything. As an example, if you have a lighting fixture that wasn't made to be sealed, that could create a fire hazard. So you want to make sure that you have an educated and informed eyeball on your work up in an attic before we start trying to air seal and insulate that space. Then we move to the basement, the B, the ABCs here, because that's where most of the cold air is going to enter a home. You air seal that rim joist perimeter and insulate it to R20. And you want to air seal a leaky foundation wall. If you happen to have one of the classic New England fieldstone walls, fieldstone foundations, very cool, very leaky. So that can be a particular challenge. If you have an earthen floor in your basement, that's something that you're going to want to install a moisture barrier on, and you're going to want to have that sealed going up the wall so that all moisture in the floor and all moisture in the walls stays contained in those spaces and doesn't come into the home. That's a really important concept to keep in mind. There's also opportunities in this area here to air seal and insulate bulkhead doors and windows. And you want to air seal and insulate any cantilevered floors or floors over a garage. And finally, the C, the conditioned space. In this space here, we're a little bit more limited, but we can still be effective. That's talking about air sealing around the window trim to wall board. It's an important spot. I think Jim might speak about that a little bit later. It's a popular area. And we want to air seal electric outlets and other electrical fixtures on exterior walls. If you've ever put your hand up against maybe an exterior wall electrical outlet on a cold night or windy night particularly, you might feel some cool air coming from there. There's ways to insulate against that as well. Certainly weather stripping windows and doors would help. And I would also caution us to be considerate of any non-continuous sheet goods on walls and ceilings. So tongue and groove boards or wainscoting, there's many lineal feet of leaky little joints there. So there's a lot going on when we talk about where to weatherize and how to weatherize a home properly. And there's certainly some safety considerations, and Jim will talk about that a little bit later for us as we get further in the presentation here. What about windows? Windows can be one of your home's most attractive features, certainly. We know that. They provide daylighting, they provide ventilation, and they provide heat from the sun in the winter. So in this presentation, I want to offer a definition of what a window is. The definition of a window for us today encompasses the entire window assembly, including the frame, the glass, okay? So it's the whole assembly. According to the United States Department of Energy, energy loss through a window account for 25 to up to 30% of a home's total energy loss, whether that's cooling energy in the warmer months or heating energy in the cooler months. Windows lose energies two ways. There's a conductive energy loss through a window frame and glass. There's also air leakage through the window assembly, including the frame. The trick for us today is reducing air leakage through your window assembly because it is the most manageable and cost-effective way to realize some energy savings. So let me go over here. So repair or replace versus inserts versus storm windows. There's a couple of different options here when we talk about our windows. And over the next few slides, I'm going to discuss how to determine if you need to replace your window or if a window insert or a storm window could work. And again, what your options might be if you have to replace a window entirely. So before you replace, repair. And that is really an important piece. A lot of folks that I've spoken with and talked to when they're considering home weatherization or trying to button up their homes, things up, they immediately say, well, we're going to replace the windows. Upon inspection of the windows, there might be opportunities for us to make some really cost-effective repairs that can reduce a lot of that cold infiltration air that certainly can aid in reducing energy costs and increasing comfort. So before jumping to replacement, there are a lot of ways to reduce that air leakage in your home. And the first step is to determine where that air leakage is coming from. You want to check to see if the window is closing completely and if the latch assembly is working. The little assembly at top there is not just responsible for stopping the window from opening, but it's also responsible for pulling the separate sections of the window together, resulting in a seal. Without that latch, the windows won't seal properly, and this can lead to a tremendous amount of air leakage. It's also good to take a look at the weather stripping along the bottom and top edges of the window along the sash perimeter. Are they torn? Are they compressed, rotten, or missing altogether? Certain exposure, many years of exposure, both inside and outside of a window can really fatigue those weather strip seals, and it's a good opportunity to see if we can find some opportunities to reduce airflow through that spot. Next, you want to take a look at the window glazing. The window glazing is responsible for sealing the glass to the frame. If it's dried out, if it's rotten or chipped away, then reglazing the window will result in less airflow moving through the assembly. Not bad. Finally, take a look along the window trim where it meets the wall board. If the existing caulk has failed, or as is common, simply isn't present, then some attention to this area will also result in less air leakage through the window assembly. Now, you may look at these items in your window and not see any obvious signs of failure. Very common. So it might be time for a smoke test to really find the locations of this infiltration air. The Department of Energy happens to offer a great guide for how to conduct a smoke test on your windows, and we'll include a link to that at the end of this presentation. Let's see here if I have anything else to say about this before we move into the next slide. But essentially, once you've identified those areas where air is entering your home, the window assemblies, you can tackle the projects one at a time. Because a lot of this work might be accomplished by a handy homeowner, you may find that you can work through your windows in a couple of weekends during the fair weather months, preparing for a cozier and more efficient heating season ahead. So we covered a bit in this slide here, but I'm going to move to the next one here. Oh, went too far. So just as a high level review here of some of the strategies that you can employ to reduce air leakage and insulate windows, we're talking about caulking the trim. We were talking about air sealing the counterweight cavities, and that's going to be for your over-under style windows. We're talking about weather strip or replacing the glides. We're talking about tightening up latches or installing new latches. Reglazing panes and replacing cracked glass. That's a kind of an obvious one, the cracked glass, but it's worth noting. Another strategy is to install interior storms or plastic film. The plastic film, we can find that at most of our local hardware stores. It's the kind where you put the tape up and then you're there with a hair dryer, and then somebody comes along and pokes a hole through it, and it's kind of it's a lot of wasted time, but they can be very, very effective at reducing airflow through a window. And then interior storm windows, which we're going to learn a little bit more about as we go through the presentation here. Installing and closing exterior storm windows. I certainly have been on many site visits where we're talking about windows and you can go outside and see the storm windows in the up position. It's not closed. And that's an obvious spot where closing the storm window and making sure it's sealed properly can really offer us some savings. And then use window quilts or thermal shades. I have some thermal shades here in the room that I'm in right now, and it's a tremendous amount of cool air I can feel behind them in the winter and warm air in the warmer months. So a couple of things that we can do here is something to keep in mind. So this window here, this poor window is suffering. This was a friend's house, and the window, this is a great example of what may happen when the window latch doesn't work anymore. The other problem that was happening in this particular house was an excessive amount of condensation on the inside of the house. They didn't have a bathroom shower fan that was functioning, and they didn't have a range hood fan above their range. So every time they cooked or every time they took a shower or used the bathing facilities, condensation would build up inside the structure. And as the warm air inside the structure was facing one pane of glass and the cold air from the outside was facing the other pane of glass, and cold air was streaming in through the unsealed latch assembly there, this is what you end up with on a really cold morning. That may look familiar for some of us. That does not mean that the window is shot, and it doesn't mean that replacing the window is going to solve all of the problems, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. So would an insert or a low E storm window work? So window inserts or interior storm windows offer an easy and sustainable way to reduce airflow through your window. As I've mentioned, after this presentation, we're going to bring Jessica in from Window Dressers, and she's going to discuss their interior insert product and how it might be a good fit for your application. But window inserts generally stop condensation from forming on glass. Okay, they create an air barrier, which offers some thermal protection. They reduce air leakage through a window. They're easy to install and remove seasonally. None of the double-sided tape and hair dryer stuff. Just pop them in, pop them out. And they provide protection against air leakage and compromised windows. In the picture of this window here, that latch assembly may not be something that we can easily replace, so an interior insert might work really well there. And a low E storm window is also a cost-effective way to protect exterior windows and reduce air leakage. Low E means low emissivity. Oh, you know, it gets stuck in your head, you can't get it out right. So to all of us, it means that the glass was created to minimize the amount of infrared and ultraviolet light that enters your home without affecting the actual light that enters. This results in glass that reflects heat, keeping the inside of your home's temperature stabilized while reflecting heat during the summertime. It offers protection to an existing window from the weather. That's something to consider if you have a side of your home that's being assaulted with heavy winds or rain or snow. The window frame and window boxes might be getting damaged, and an exterior frame might be a really helpful piece for that. And it reduces air and moisture leakage, and it provides protection to those compromised windows. Okay, so reasons to replace a window. The glass seal can fail on a double pane window, and you'll notice that on a double pane window, you'll see fogging between those two panes. That is an example of a window that has failed and will need to be replaced. That one is not going to be something you can air seal, but that might be a great opportunity for an exterior storm window or an interior insert. So not all is lost there. But some other things you might want to take a look at that might signal complete replacement is a rotting window frame, any extensive deterioration, severe misalignment, and a faulty operation. Window that doesn't shut all the way or window that won't close all the way qualifies as one that may need some serious work. So that's what you want to look for when you're talking about replacing a window, and that is certainly where the help of a qualified contractor can really make this something that's easier to understand and navigate. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So what's next here? What's next is I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the partners that can help us when we're trying to navigate some of this, because it's not an easy process, and it's great to have some help here. Let's see here. I want to introduce this to a couple of folks. Certainly, oh, sorry, my Efficiency Vermont. So that's us. Efficiency Vermont and other energy efficiency utilities. In Chittenden County, Efficiency Vermont will help and works with all ratepayers, with the exception of in Burlington. Burlington has Burlington Electric for that. So Burlington Electric is an energy efficiency utility and a distribution utility. And so is Vermont Gas. So if you're on the Vermont Gas pipeline, Vermont Gas can also assist you with rebates and incentives. And when it comes to weatherization, I want to talk a little bit about what Efficiency Vermont offers. and also wanted to talk a little bit about what Vermont Gas offers, because a lot of folks in this area here are going to be Vermont Gas customers. It's going to be important to mention that. So our weatherization, we provide incentives for whole home weatherization through our Home Performance with Energy Star program. The program offers a trusted approach to home upgrades that include a comprehensive evaluation with recommended work being performed by a trained and qualified network of contractors. Qualified contractors really are building scientists who are trained in not only the specialized equipment and process to weatherize your home, but also to check the health and safety of your home throughout the project. Window replacements are not incentive eligible under the Home Performance with Energy Star program. There are two primary reasons. We offer incentive comprehensive weatherization, which may include windows and door air sealing, but not window replacement. A cornerstone of the program in all of our programs is providing incentives that save ratepayers money over the lifetime of their energy efficiency investment. It's a common misconception that windows will save money. New windows are energy efficient and they may decrease your heating bills, but they also come with a high upfront cost, typically $1,000 to $2,000 installed per. The energy that a window saves over its lifetime will not equate to that cost. That means that you might spend more on the window than you'll save on energy. Now, Efficiency Vermont's thermal budget, and that's the budget that we would use to save on heating, is much smaller and less consistent than our electric budget. That means that we must prioritize offering incentives on projects and technologies that will generate the most savings and benefits at the least cost, such as the Home Performance with Energy Star program. While window replacement is not eligible for incentives under our home performance program, repairing them is eligible under our DIY. DIY program is designed to support customers in accessing low-cost options that make their homes more comfortable. Through our DIY program, homeowners can receive up to $100 back for completing at least 3 eligible projects. Window repairs are one of those eligible projects under DIY. You can find a full list of the projects that apply towards the rebate on our website, for projects like weather stripping and caulking around doors and windows and insulating hot water pipes are great options for handy folks. If you're ready for a comprehensive project, it's probably time to reach out to a contractor.
Brad, can I just jump in really quickly just to clarify on the thermal budget?
Sure.
So the thermal budget is what we use to fund thermal projects, which is basically weatherization. There are other, because you had just mentioned that we use this on projects that reduce the cost of heating. That could include changing out your heating source. What we're talking about is weatherization for the thermal budget, and that is a much more constrained budget than our electric budget that we use on other things. So I just wanted to make sure we clarify that.
Thanks for that clarification, Michelle. And I'm sorry I didn't make that super clear in my first round here, but I appreciate clearing that up. So as this slide here just shows that weatherizing windows, exterior doors, and insulating pipes, definitely a DIY style project, but comprehensive air sealing, insulating in attics and basements and walls, and checking the health and safety of your home per professional guidelines, that is a place for a Home Performance with Energy Star qualified contractor. Let's see here, and so this is a little bit about weatherization rebates from Vermont Gas Systems. There are full details on the Vermont Gas website that speak to this, and I would encourage anybody that's interested to visit the Vermont Gas website, give those folks a call and talk to them about your particular project. So again, if you are a Vermont Gas customer, that's the first place to inquire about any kind of weatherization services, incentives, and rebates. But this slide here lists out a number of different rebates and incentives, whether they're for owner-occupied homes, renters where tenants pay the VGS bill, townhouses and condos. The other thing that VGS offers and Efficiency Vermont offers through partners is financing. VGS offers financing through Green Mountain Credit Union and very competitive terms and good loan amounts that would allow you to weatherize most homes in the area. So the other folks that can help here, we mentioned Vermont Gas here a little bit, your distribution utility. Again, if you're a Burlington customer, Burlington Electric is a place to stop and check out as well. But your electric and gas utilities are partners delivering products that can reduce fossil fuel use. They also offer some other incentives that we may not offer. So it's always worth checking in with them as well. Select credit unions help pay for the upfront cost of your project with no or low interest financing. Efficiency Vermont partners with 3 credit unions throughout the state, and depending upon your qualification levels, we have extended range loans and loans that can handle the entire cost of a project at very competitive rates. Depending upon your levels, you might qualify for a 0% interest rate. The Efficiency Excellence Network. These are contractors and service providers that are vetted by Efficiency Vermont. They often have exclusive access to programs and offers. And this is where I'm gonna hand a couple minutes over this presentation to Jim Bradley. Jim is a very experienced, I mentioned this earlier, weatherization home performance with Energy Star contractor with 15 years. He's also the co-host of House Call Vermont, a radio program hosted by WDEV. And we've asked Jim to come to this conversation today just to talk to us about what the contractor sees out there in the field. And so I'm going to hand this over to Jim. Jim, are you available to speak to us now?
I am. Can you hear me all right, Brad?
Well, I can hear you just fine, Jim. Thanks.
Great. Well, thanks for having me today. And thank you for everybody who is on the call and who has decided to stay. Hopefully there'll be just as many or more after this part of the presentation. But with that, as Brad was saying, I have a lot of experience in the field, but I come at it from a couple different perspectives. I was a builder first, this is 30 years ago, and was getting into the trades as a newbie back in the day. And then I drifted around in different management forms as far as operations management, got back into the weatherization field, and then progressed into the high performance construction field, but still have a real passion about our building stock, our health and safety, and definitely saving money on energy bills. And I used to approach the weatherization side of things by how much money can we save you on your energy bills, your heating bills, electric bills, whatever. But then I started seeing some of the problems that were behind the scenes. And even as a contractor, trying to replace a failed system with the exact same process that was originally installed and expecting better results, well, we all know that's futility. It's not going to yield that. So you had to understand the building itself as an actual performing entity, if you will. It's not a living entity, but it has a circulatory system, a respiratory system, the outer skin or shell, the bones inside, and you have to give a lot of attention on how that house performs as a system if you're going to expect great results. And so when we get the calls from people for a home performance assessment, or I have condensation or icing on the inside of my windows, or I have mold that won't stop, it's so important to figure out, okay, what's the cause? It's not just a quick Band-Aid solution usually, but it's knowing the house as a system that is vitally important. If somebody calls us now and just says, okay, I just want to save money on my energy bills, I'm definitely going to have the discussion up front and say, listen, if that's all you want, you found the wrong contractor. What you want is to look at, first and foremost, is the house safe? Is it healthy? Are any issues that could be affecting the building occupants, like indoor air quality, the mold, like I had discussed, or deterioration of the structure, going to be a hazard? Or is the structure itself, are there areas of the house that should be fixed first, like in a basement? Like say you have a rubble foundation or dry rotting on the floor system above that's over a dirt floor. You want to address those issues first. You also want to identify toxins that are in the house, possibly when it comes to carbon monoxide for the indoor air quality, once again, also lead paint, vermiculite, things like that, before you think about tightening things up. Because once you tighten everything up, that indoor air quality changes and the whole performance inside the building changes. So you have to do this intelligently. But when we show up to a house, we're going to be looking at, yes, the exterior of the house first, and we're going to be looking at the windows and the doors. And we're going to see, okay, is the outer shell in good condition? Is the trim rotting? Is it stable? Is it in good condition? Are there flashing details where to keep the water out? Have those details been properly addressed, or have they been missed, basically? So allowing for water to penetrate into the assembly. We're going to look at the condition of the sills. I don't know how many times I've gone up to a house and the window sill on the outside looked compromised. Usually you can see moss or mushrooms growing, and that's usually a good indicator. But you can take a pocket knife, and if you can sink that pocket knife into it and it doesn't reject it, there's a moisture issue. And vapor drive, along with bulk water moisture from rain and snow getting in, is really a big hazard, not just to the windows, but think about it. You're letting light in, but the window is a portal, if you will, that can allow water, moisture, and everything else in at the same time. And so many times we've gone to replace a window because it was rotted, and we find out the structure, the insulation, the sheathing, siding, everything else behind the window is also compromised. And that's when a window replacement, I think, is justified. Usually though, when we're going up to a building, and we're starting to do the walk around, we're going to look inside as well. We're going to look for those signs of possible so much condensation has been forming that a wood window is starting to rot around the bottom parts of the window or on the window sill. We can usually see tea staining or discoloration. And we're going to say, okay, how do we best approach that? And we keep asking questions of the homeowner. Okay, do you guys use the bath fan? Do you have balanced mechanical ventilation? Does somebody sleep in this room on a normal basis? What's adding to that moisture level? The reason why you see condensation though on windows isn't necessarily that it's a bad window. It's more so dealing with the fact that the warm, moist air is laden with humidity. Anything above, the 50% mark going towards 60 to 70% is really a saturated type of airstream that you want to address. If you don't, you get this big bulbous air pocket that can carry moisture that then hits a cold surface, the window, and drops the moisture because it can't carry as much moisture. Then that drips down your window, gets on the sash, starts rotting things out, growing mold, and affecting the health and safety of the building occupants. And if the indoor air quality was addressed, then this would be significantly mitigated. So many times I've heard that people have changed out their windows, and that very next year, even with a nice window, they end up getting condensation for the first time. But they've also done some other measures to tighten up the home. And so when you tighten up the home, which is good, but you don't address how the air is treated inside, the circulation or the ventilation quality, then you're going to, once again, change the scales of balance. And that's why looking at the house as a system is, once again, so important. Compelling reasons to change out a window, some of them I've already stated. If there's rot, if there's significant compromise in the window structure, or you think that water is getting behind the scenes and further renovations are going to be required, those are some of the reasons. If you're going to do a larger project where you're gutting everything, you're taking out insulation or you're redoing siding, sometimes those are a good time. Skylights, I'm not a fan of them. If you have them and you get a shingle roof replaced and that skylight is original to the roof and you don't change it out, that's a missed opportunity because that window will fail shortly thereafter and you're going to start having leaks and other issues inside. So those are some of the times when I would look at changing out the window. Normally though, the majority of windows can be properly repaired with, as Brad mentioned, weather stripping, sash locks. Sometimes in the older windows where you have the pulley and the weight counterweight, you can have covers over those openings to mitigate how much air leakage there is. You can also do certain things on, let's say you have the fog glass. So many of the window companies around here now can change that glass out for you, and then you'll be back in business. But still, that doesn't mean the condensation goes away if you haven't addressed the other issues inside the building. But when we talk to our customers, and I know I'm not in window sales, I do provide those for customers. I do install those for customers in a retrofit situation, but that's usually the last opportunity in most cases because there's so many other items inside the building that are so much more important where you can spend money, less money, and get better results. Keep in mind, if you were to replace all your windows, you could be looking at an average 2,000 square foot home of about a $20,000 to $25,000 investment for your Marvins, your Andersons, your Harveys, things like that. The payback on that for what you'll save in energy is about 200 to 225 years. Doesn't really meter out. And if you get the really fancy aluminum clad windows that basically have still a wood core, that wood core is no longer old growth wood. It's basically newer growth wood, and it's not as durable. So if you do get penetrations where through the caulking or the joints of the aluminum cladding, water gets in, rots it out quickly, and yet you just don't see that problem immediately. So first and foremost, before I would consider wholesale replacing my windows to solve all my building science issues inside the building, I would take a different look at it. I would say, how is the house itself performing as a system? What are those areas of opportunity? When I look at the window, what are the easy things that, is it completely unserviceable? Or as the military says, is it performing in a clean, dry, and serviceable manner? And if it is, I would see about changing out the weather stripping, addressing the sash locks. And there's a company, and I'll put it in the chat. There's a company out there that is called Pickens Window Service. I've gotten weather stripping for windows that were 40 years old. And all I did was take a 6-inch piece of the weather stripping that exists, sent it off to them. They send me back out a sample. It said, does this match? and then I go ahead and say yes, and I need this many linear feet, and then I'm back in business with those windows. And so that's a national entity that you can contact for some of the weather stripping, because what we found with a lot of windows, there's so many merging of companies, and even the windows I have in my house, I have 2 different manufacturers. Both of them don't exist anymore. And so where do I go get parts? And most of the hardware you can replace through different providers, but some of it you can't. But if I were to say what would be the major reason why I would change out windows, it's personal preference, but that's not going to solve any other building science issues. It could also be that things have rotted, or you're doing a major retrofit. And if you're doing a major retrofit and you're going to put 50-year siding on there and you want a better assembly, if you do that with windows, though, I would consider not going with a double pane window, because I'm a huge proponent of a triple pane window. What is a triple pane unit compared to a double pane unit? A double pane, the separation between the 2 glass layers is not enough to create the proper temperature differential between buffer, that is, from inside to outside. So you're still going to get the condensation if you haven't addressed indoor humidity issues. Normally, though, with a triple pane, you're going to have greater separation, greater protection between the inside and outside temperatures. You're not going to see the condensation. And I can attest to that because I have double windows that are efficient double windows in my one part of my house, and triple pane European style tilt and turn windows on the other side. The double hungs, I still get moisture, even though I have an ERV that deals with energy recovery ventilator that deals with humidity. I still get condensation at times on those windows, but yet the European style ones with triple pane, I don't. And it's well worth the investment. And there are now domestic providers for these that are doing a great job with these windows, and they're bringing the cost down as far as the European tilt and turn. And some of the other ones, like I know Pella is now starting to make a triple pane window. It has a U factor of 1.6 or 0.16, excuse me, which is about an R6.5 roughly. And so that's an affordable window, and I think it's a good product to look at. But with that, once again, windows are not normally the first opportunity that we're going to look at when we're considering weatherization items, but we're going to look at other areas in the house as a system, and what measures can we perform to make that house perform better. And then at the end, if there is a compelling reason to address the windows because of the reasons I mentioned, then yes, you can look at that. But that's not usually the first choice, even though the advertisement on the radio or the TV may tell you it is. I think I'm probably out of time, but definitely will be looking forward to questions on the other side of this if anyone should have those.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
I do want to leave a couple minutes for Jessica here, and I'm going to wrap up my slides here pretty quickly. Local store is a place where you can find products that help you save money. You want to always look for the Energy Star label or the Smart Choice labels. You can see the Smart Choice down the right-hand side of your screen. These are market tested and high quality products that can help you weatherize your house and tighten things up. And finally, weatherization agencies. Income eligible weatherization is available for folks. These are partnered agencies with us, and we provide free light bulbs and appliances to eligible customers who are participating in the weatherization program, as well as directing customers to take advantage of these particular programs. So I am going to stop my presentation here, but I will throw up after Jessica talks here some of the resources that I spoke about, but I'm going to stop sharing and allow for Jessica Williams to come in here and chat with us about window dressers inserts. So there you go, Jessica.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. My name is Jessica Williams. I'm program manager for Vermont and New Hampshire for window dressers. I'm glad to be here today. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen, Brad, if that's okay.
Fine with me.
Oops. All the way at the end. There we go. Can everybody see that all right?
Yeah, yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. Well, so thanks again to the CCRBC and Efficiency Vermont for having me. I think Brad and Jim, you covered some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, but as we know, windows are can be a blessing and a curse. They're great because they let in all the light and the fresh air. The bad is that they can result in significant heat loss. And as Brad mentioned earlier, according to the Department of Energy, they can be responsible for 25 to 30% of residential energy use. Again, you guys talked about some of this as well. Sources of heat loss through windows in the home can be air leakage, conduction, radiation, and convection. So convection is really, I don't think either of you really talked about this too much, so I'll touch on this briefly. So that's when the warm air in the home encounters the cold air of the cold glass of a window. The warm air cools, it sinks, and then creates the convective current near the window. So this can really add to the feeling of a draft by the window. So some of the options you have for preventing heat loss, again, as Brad mentioned, the insulating plastic kits that you can get from your hardware store, which you have to redo every year. Throw away the plastic and redo them. The quilted or the honeycomb shades, those can work fairly well. They can be expensive, and in order for them to do their job, they need to be closed during the day, which means that you don't get the light from the window or the views outside. And again, replacing your windows, as Jim talked about at length, which can be prohibitively expensive for many people. And as you said, Jim, maybe not necessary. So that is why we think window dressers inserts are a great option for helping to prevent heat loss through windows. So what we provide is a high quality, low cost, effective, and easy to use product. So it's a pine frame that's wrapped in 2 layers of polyolefin plastic, and it's finished off with a foam gasket around the outside edge. We keep our insert prices exceptionally low through our model of cooperative insert building. So it's sort of like an old-fashioned barn raising for window weatherization. And an average sized window insert of about 30 by 52 inches costs about $44. So it's significantly less than other products that you're going to get on the market that are similar. So if you use one of our inserts with a double paned window, you're going to end up with 3 sealed insulating air spaces. So you're going to have the space between the 2 layers of plastic for the insert, the space between the 2 pieces of glass of the window, and then the space between the insert and the window. So in this situation, if you have an insert, sorry, I'm going to back up. So for a double paned window in the winter, if you put your hand on the glass, in general, it's going to be cold during a cold day. With a window insert in place in that same window, if you put your hand on the plastic will feel like the room temperature. So they go a long way to reducing that convective and radiant heat loss that you can get without the insert in place. So they also can reduce condensation significantly or eliminate it on windows. I've actually seen that happen in my home. I've got inserts on some windows where in a bedroom where before you wake up in the morning and there's a ton of condensation. Now I've got inserts in place and the condensation is almost completely eliminated. So the inserts are custom fit, so we measure them precisely to the size of your windows. They're removable and reusable for up to 5 to 10 years with proper care and storage. And they really go a long way to increasing the overall comfort in your home, especially right near the windows. A big part of our mission is to provide 25 to 35% of our inserts to low-income households. So these folks can get up to 10 inserts for free or for whatever they can afford to pay. So that's a really important part of what we do. So saving money is really important. And of course, as you both, Brad and Jim discussed, there are a lot of different factors that are going to affect your savings with an insert in place. So that's going to be the type of window that's already there, whether it's a single paned or a double paned window, how well insulated the home is as well, and the type of fuel you use for heating and your heating system. But in general, our research shows that on average, our inserts save up to 1 gallon of heating fuel for every square foot of window that's covered. And again, we keep our inserts low in cost by our community coming together and building these. So here's an image of what our inserts look like in place. They're pretty attractive, I think, and they function really well. Community building is at the heart of what we do. Community building equals building community, and we really see that during the community builds. It's a week-long event that community organizations put together. We get a lot of input from not only the people who are buying inserts, but folks from the community who just want to volunteer. Local businesses may donate food. Local organizations may help with reaching other customers. So like Efficiency Vermont, there are a lot of partnerships that we form as well. So again, participants are a big part of what we do. Folks who order their inserts come together to make them. There are no special skills that are required. We teach you everything when you show up. And there are a lot of different things that people can do depending on their skill and mobility levels. So it's a really fun event. It's empowering for a lot of people. You know, some folks say, oh, I don't know how to build anything. I don't use tools. And they often leave saying, wow, that was a lot of fun. I met somebody new. I'm really excited about this. So I just want to throw a couple of other things out there. You know, we have not done extensive research or don't have the funding to do the testing, but in general, our assumption is that the inserts that we produce basically will double the R value of a double pane window. So that's something to keep in mind. And our inserts are eligible for the Efficiency Vermont DIY rebate. If folks get at least 3 inserts, they can get the DIY rebate through Efficiency Vermont. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much. And I look forward to any questions.
Well, thank you, Jessica. That's great. I will just, looks like.
You want me to take over with the Q&A, Brad?
Sure, you can take over the Q&A. Do you want me to pop up the resources slide, or you want me to pop that up at the end of the show here?
Why don't we do it at the end, just because we have about 8 minutes. So,
sure.
So I tried to answer a lot in the chat. Please feel free to let me know if you have further questions of how I answered things. But a few questions about window dressers we just got in. Actually, first I want to ask Jim a question. What's the difference between the cost of a double pane and a triple pane? I answered from my personal experience, but I actually don't know like the market as well as you. So I was wondering if you could address that.
Well, it depends on where you buy them. There are some overseas where they used to be the only ones making that product, and you could spend as much as $4,000 to $8,000 now to ship them overseas before you ever pay for the windows, just a shipping cost. But now there's companies like Wyeth Windows in New Jersey. There's another one out that's all wood product, and they build it from a sustainable forest out in Colorado. That is something that's more reasonable. But basically right now, if I were to compare Wyeth window to like a Marvin or an Anderson high-end window that they have, it may be $100 to $200 more, if that. They usually are on par with Marvin's upper tier, and you get a triple pane. It's a little bit different operation though on their triple pane, because it's a tilt and turn. So you turn the handle one direction and the window tilts downward from the bottom, and then you close it, turn the handle another direction, and it can swing open. Some people are not as familiar with that, but if you go to a big city, most of these hotels anymore are switching over to those, and it becomes something more familiar. But the U factor, and I should say R value, is so much better on those windows, and it's usually about double from what a normal window would be.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I did say that there are so many, as someone who just bought windows for their house, there's so many things that can impact it. For Jessica, there's a question of how durable the plastic is that you use in the window dresser inserts. Could they stand up to toddler kids? And I'll add even animals to that.
That's definitely a question that we get pretty often. So it's a polyolefin plastic. So it is susceptible to puncture. So we do, when we're in a home, we say, you know, if there are windows that are a favorite for pets or where kids are going to be, you know, moving around, that you may want to not use an insert in that window, we do offer repairs for $15. So if something does get punctured, if there's a small hole, you can put a piece of packing tape over it for a temporary fix, and then you can get it repaired in another community build. So that is one of the weaknesses of the inserts. But
Great.
otherwise they're pretty strong.
Great. There's a question of, does an infrared reader that identified heat loss qualify for the DIY discount? I'm going to tell you right now, I have no idea off the top of my head. It's actually best to submit that question through our customer service team at Efficiency Vermont. If you have something out of the norm, we get a lot of questions about what qualifies for DIY. I will tell you, we try to be as flexible as possible. So I would just suggest you submit that question, and I apologize for not knowing it off the top of my head. There's a question of, for community builds for window dressers, Jessica, how long does it usually take to organize and implement something like that?
So we recommend it's basically a 6 to 9 month commitment for a leadership team of about 3 to 6 folks. So we're in the process of starting to encourage teams to form and get out there and start doing outreach while it's still cold. And then we actually hold all of the community builds are held in the fall, starting mid-October, going through early December-ish.
Great. There's a question saying, I've heard that there's a big limitation on available labor in Vermont to complete weatherization projects. Is this true, and how is it being addressed? This is an absolute massive issue. I'm sure Jim knows of it well and probably could add to it, but I'll just say it's a big conversation at the State House. It's a conversation helping on the local and state and frankly even federal level. I wouldn't say there is a particularly gold star answer to how we help this. We could have a whole webinar on that specific topic. I do know what I'm hearing from the field. A big issue is available housing in Vermont for labor that is willing to come here and do the work. And there's also, I was just on a webinar with a handful of state actors, including the governor's office, on that issue. So again, it's a massive issue, it's completely true. And there's a lot of people who are trying to look and address at it. Jim, I don't know if you want to add anything. Yeah, please.
Please. This has been something that we've been involved at the State House for years about, and it doesn't matter how much money you throw at the situation. First and foremost, it has to be a complete shift from our school systems to work transition programs to everything else, showing how viable of a trade this is, why it's important. It's not the most glamorous work, especially when you're crawling around in crawl spaces, basements, attics with dead rodents, dead whatever, and nasty conditions. It's not exciting, but showing that how it helps individuals, the health and safety of the building occupants, the building itself, and why it's great for the planet is the message that needs to get out there. And it pays really well. That's the big thing too. And that's what people need to understand. And it is a rewarding career opportunity. It's one of the reasons why I still do it, because I love seeing the fact that I can go into a house and know that when I first did the audit, the daughter tells me of this one individual that they usually keep it at 55 degrees in the house all winter and they have blankets on. And then the day we finished their project was on New Year or Christmas Eve. It was 8 degrees outside. They were in shorts and stocking feet, and all they had going was their small wood stove. And they were comfortable as can be. That's rewarding. And if you can translate that into individuals looking to get in the career field, that'd be great. If we just keep piling money at it, but we don't have the workers to back it up, the work's not going to get done. We have to attract more into the field for sure.
Thank you, Jim. So we have, we're basically at time. I'm going to ask Brad to throw up the resource slide. And thank you, Jessica, for answering that question in the chat. This webinar has been recorded. I'm not sure how we plan on distributing it. Anna, I don't know if it's going to be on your website or anything afterwards.
We will definitely post it on our website, and we'll send it over to Efficiency Vermont, and you can do the same if you like.
Great. And certainly do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Brad or anyone else on this webinar if you have further questions. Brad seems to be struggling to get the slide up, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm having some technical challenges.
it's okay. Brad, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
No, I think the only final thought I would share would don't try to go this alone. There is a network of people, a lot of partnerships throughout the state and local levels to help folks navigate this. And I would encourage everybody to utilize those resources as most effectively as possible.
Jim, you got your hand up. You want to add something?
Yeah, we have also a question from JC. He had asked about if we put a bathroom fan on in winter, will all the heat just go out? Great question, because yes, you're depressurizing the house. Just like if you put on your 300 CFM dryer or your range hood or something like that, once you push air out of the house, you're depressurizing it. And the challenge with that is, since it's not balanced ventilation, it's exhaust only, it's pushing the air out, but the air will come back in from unknown sources, like your basement, like holes in the walls, whatever. And that could be a challenge. So getting balanced mechanical ventilation. So you have probably a little more supply than you do exhaust. And that way, you keep that airstream fresh, but it's also reconditioning the air that's leaving the building. It captures heat from it. And then as new air comes in, it warms it back up to an efficiency level of around 85 to 90%. And then you're making sure you get fresh air from a known spot. So it's still good to do that. It gets rid of excess humidity, but you're right. Exhaust only ventilation has its limitations for sure.
Thank you. I did not notice Zoom is confusing where we have the chat and the Q&A. So I appreciate you catching that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're at time. I want to thank our panelists. This was an excellent informational session. Really appreciate all your efforts and time and research in putting this together. So thank you, everyone. That's it for today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.